Imagine for a moment you've been a small brunette your entire life. You've always identified with it, pretty normal, average height, some people call you short, and just regular brown hair. You had a normal childhood. It was pretty good, actually. You played around with a lot of your friends. You made plenty of friends because you were just a little outgoing kid. Not super extroverted, of course, but you were a kid and you had high energy and you played around with your church friends and your school friends, your family friends, stuff like that. You'd always enjoyed your childhood. You never really thought of the future. You were relatively smart. You did relatively well in school. You were all around pretty average, but also pretty happy. Then one night, suddenly everything changed. You woke up, looked in the mirror, and saw your hair had been chopped off, turned bright green, and you had gained 15 pounds. What just happened? How did that happen? What is going on? This isn't me. However, no matter how you feel, everybody else around you feels the opposite. Your parents love your green hair. It's how they'd always dreamed you'd be. Everybody loved your physique now. You were like the perfect idea of what everybody thought you would grow to be, exactly how people had imagined, maybe a little bit different than other people imagined, but they still loved it. But you didn't. You never wanted to have your hair chopped and dyed green, bright green for that matter, which isn't a very good color. Excuse me if you like bright green. And gaining 15 pounds overnight, that's crazy, and you'd never really needed to do that. You never really wanted to do that. So eventually, you actually start leaning into it. Everybody else around you likes it, so you continue maintaining your short chopped hair and continue dyeing it over and over again, even though dyeing your hair is kind of annoying and it gets all over the shower and stuff like that. And you never really try to lose the weight that you had gained. Nobody really seems to notice that you don't feel right. Nobody thinks to check in. Nobody thinks to say, hey, do you ever wish you could go back? And you start to get depressed. And still, nobody even notices that. They don't check in on you, don't ask how you've been, don't ask how your mental health has been. You kind of feel helpless. Yeah, you have good moments. You still have good friends. Like, they're being nice to you. Obviously, they're not being rude, but they just accept the changes that had happened that you hadn't accepted. Like, you didn't want that. Then eventually, while you're scrolling on YouTube one day, you find another person that was like you, who's sharing their experiences. Maybe they had lost 10 pounds and their eyes had changed color to bright red. And you're thinking, well, at least there's one other person who experienced a rapid change like me. But then you keep going, and you keep going down this rabbit hole, and you find there's actually a lot more people like you than you thought. And eventually, you start realizing some people in the media had been like you. You never realized that popular person in that one movie you loved had actually gone through the same thing as you. That's crazy. You eventually start creating a network. People that had actually experienced what you experienced and had either lived with it or had changed it. You start to wonder, can I do that too? You eventually start to meet people in person who didn't necessarily go through the same changes that you did, but they understand and they are able to help you label your feelings. So you've created this network online and offline, and you start encouraging yourself little by little, and eventually you start making changes. You do everything in your power to grow your hair out using different scalp oils and shampoos and conditioners to grow your hair, and you stop dyeing it bright green and start experimenting with other colors that you might like. Maybe you just go back to brunette, who knows? You start to exercising as often as you can, as consistently as you can, and you start seeing some weight loss, going back to how you had envisioned yourself when you were younger. The people around you don't like it. they don't necessarily see anything going on. It's subtle changes, but they sense something and they don't like it. But they never confront you about it. No matter the physical changes that you made, they don't bring it up. They don't confront you. Eventually, you settle into a person that you really wanted to be, both physically and emotionally and mentally and spiritually. And some friends don't like that, and they wander away, never confronting you, obviously, because nobody does that. But they just seem to drift away. Other friends, you gain, and the friends that you already had, maybe your friendship with them grows even more, and they really appreciate who you are, who you've grown into. Eventually, you work up the courage to tell your family about it. Hey, I've been doing these exercises, I've been doing these things to help grow out my hair, and I've finally done it. I've finally gone to therapy and improved my emotional state as well, so I'm now the person that I want to be. And your parents hate it. Don't accept the changes that you've made, the changes you've worked hard on, the changes that you've wanted ever since the night that everything in your life changed. It's honestly weird. Why would they not accept you for changing yourself to be who you were meant to be, who you wanted to be? Isn't that what a parent is supposed to do? Accept and love you for that? When you tell your friends about it, they've already kind of known, and they're the ones that accept you for it. So there you go. Your life had been good, turned terrible, and then it turned right back around to great. And your friends, many of them stayed your friends, and you even gained more and even strengthened your relationships that you'd already had. And they supported you even though your parents didn't. They loved you for who you were, and they were never going to change that. There was this off feeling, though, because they had never gone through that change. They had never experienced that exact thing, and you couldn't really find very many people that had, because it was kind of a rare thing. But whatever. Maybe you'll find some someday. Does that sound a little familiar? Yeah, that's kind of what it's like to be trans. At least in my experience, I had a relatively good childhood, played with friends no matter their gender, never really thought about gender, actually. Never had many problems, and then it seemed overnight, it definitely wasn't, but it seemed overnight my body started, hang on, I'm like confused between you and me. The person's freaking me out. I'm talking about me now. I had a relatively good childhood. Yeah, I never really thought about gender, never really thought how my body would change when I grew older, and then it happened, and people started treating me different. And to be honest, at first I liked it. I thought it meant that I was being mature, but no, I was being a female. For a long time, I had no clue what was going on in my brain. It was like this disconnect. I was basically disassociated for a couple years. The best way to describe it is off. Weird. Not right. And then it got so much worse in middle school. Then I realized, oh, there's queer people. And I didn't really know what queer was. And then I started researching it. And then I started seeing more content about it. And then I started understanding it more and realizing, hey, low-key, I'm like that. And I experimented with the different pronouns briefly. I went through the pipeline pretty fast over a few months. My friend is texting me and I keep losing my train of thought. I should probably have a do not disturb thing on while I'm filming. But I low-key don't care. She's in London, by the way. Several of my friends have been to Europe. Do I ever want to go to Europe? Yeah. When I get rich. Don't know when that'll happen, if it'll ever, but... Actually, Europe is like cheaper than America, right? But the flights... I don't know. I should probably ask them. I don't think I'd want to go to London. That's a big city. I would never want to go to a big city, like actually. Maybe in Europe it's different, but in America, big cities are just like dirty. Actually, London I've heard is pretty dirty. Paris? I don't know. I just want to go to like small, rural, like local towns and just eat a bunch of food and just look at the sunny countryside and just like wander around. That's my ideal like Europe trip. Anyways, that doesn't matter. Sorry for the little interlude, I guess. But yeah, then I finally got comfortable, a little bit more comfortable in my appearance, and I definitely improved my personality after middle school because I was a little brat in middle school. Anyways, it was much easier to come out to my friends. It was actually like pretty random. I think I told you guys about it, but when I came out to my parents, they did not accept me, and now they're just completely ignoring it, even though that's literally my name on my whiteboard in my room. But they don't come into my room, so whatever. And my extended family doesn't know. They probably know, but they don't know. But like, probably. Yeah, that was the simplest analogy that I could kind of wrap it up into, specifically for cis people. Because it really is, like, at least for me, I don't know if this is it for all trans men, for all trans women, for all trans people in general, but I never thought about gender when I was little. Like, I never thought about sexuality either. I just like saw straight couples on like Disney, and I was like, they're in love. Like, it didn't really matter their gender. Like, I don't know. Then when I got mature, went through puberty, people started treating me differently, and I was like, this is nice, because I thought that they were treating me differently because I was more mature, and I'd always wanted to be like mature and like taken seriously when I was younger. But no, they were just treating me like a girl, like a woman. I had flowered. It's so like gross to me how people talk about like women in general. Even if they're like technically being polite about it, it's still like just rubs me the wrong way. So that's definitely a sign that I am a trans man and not a woman. I didn't do the intro because I just kind of wanted to jump right into the video, the little analogy, the story I took you on. But I will do a little outro for you. That's that. I hope you had a good time watching. I hope you continue to have a good day. And maybe I will see you next time. Bye. Love you.